join in hand in hand while the music plays the band. Look, I'm setting us on fire.
Welcome to the Music Plays the Band podcast. We're going to be sitting down with musicians, artists, band members, friends and family to talk about what drives them to create great music. Asking more than just the typical questions, who's inspired you or what music do you like, we're going to ask the why behind what motivates them to create great music.
People join in hand in hand.
What we imagine can become real. And the first act of making things real is imagining that they are possible. So let's think about the rivers of the world running clear and the water being drinkable for just a moment. Imagine with me, just for a moment. Interesting thought for today. I've come to believe that peace is actually possible. And we mean one mind and one heart at a time. That process is where we begin. So if we want to heal the planet, we don't have to do big things. But in the beginning, we have to believe. We have to believe that things are possible. We have to have hope. Without the hope that things can become reality, we might not try hard enough. And when enough of us believe that peace is actually possible, we begin to affect the collective consciousness in a way that cannot be overcome. For just a moment, think about the hope, the prayer, for the planet.
Front Porch Fest on Saturday afternoon, and I'm here speaking with Billy Woods.
Correct.
And he's going to tell us about his history with music and what he's doing today. So if you could start off, just give us a little introduction.
Well, I'm really privileged to come here and be invited to play at Front Porch Festival, and they let me come and do the morning prayer, for lack of a better way to talk about that. Come and talk about peace and love and light and saving the world for our children and talking about the environment, but I try not to preach and I try not to sell. It's more about let's imagine the world that we want to come. Don't complain and whine about the one that we have. Let's imagine the world that we want and make that one happen.
Okay.
So I do that every morning here at Front Porch Festival, and I have Scott and Chris come and play with me, and we talk about peace and love and light in the morning and play contemplative meditation to give us time to think about it. That's what I'm doing now, but I also have the great privilege of being invited to play with, I'm going to play tomorrow night with Slick Jr. and the blues band, and I'll take my percussion rack and they light up my world.
Yeah, nice.
And playing with Scott and Chris in the Borrowed Earth band. We do a lot of music that we've written about saving the planet.
Okay.
And working on the environment and giving real thought to this idea that we have borrowed the earth from our children. It's not ours.
Right.
We borrow it from them.
Yeah.
And not only our children, but 7 generations from now, our
Right.
children, in the way that the Lakota Sioux medicine man taught me when I studied with them in one of my incarnations of
Yeah.
my being.
Well, and this morning you guys covered a Cat Stevens song, correct? Which
That's
is
correct.
fitting with the
What we-
message. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Well, let's go back to the far reaches of your memory to see what is like your first memory that involves music.
Well, I started playing drums in 1955.
Okay.
And I started playing into nightclubs in 1957. And so I played 6 nights a week and went to high school.
Wow.
And the music was really different because now we're in 1959, 1960, 1961. And I went to work 6 nights a week just like the dishwasher. And they gave me a W-2 and I made $2 an hour
Playing drums?
playing drums.
Wow.
And I played in the same club for almost 3 years. And not all the same musicians in the band, but I was the drummer, the house drummer, and I played almost 3 years in a single nightclub.
Wow.
And
What got you into playing drums in the first place?
well, I thought it would be fun, and I thought maybe the girls would like it.
Yeah.
And guess what?
You were right.
They do.
Was your family musical?
No.
No? Okay.
And it was, my family was pretty poor.
Mhm.
And so the drums were one of the things that, you could buy a pair of drumsticks and a drum pad for $8.
Yeah.
And then when you were in the band, you didn't have to buy drums
Right.
because they came with the band. And so trumpets and all band instruments were expensive. And so that just seemed like the right place for me.
Okay.
And what is interesting in the way that the progression came is that I met a bebop singer who played guitar, and I'm 14. And he's you play drums? I need a drummer, and you can come. I'll give you a job. I'll give you $10 a job for every time we play. You get them $10. Wow, $10.
Which is probably better than $2 an hour.
It's about the same.
Yeah.
But $2 an hour. I mean, minimum wage was 85 cents or 90 cents.
Oh, wow,
I mean,
okay.
It was a long time ago. So here's the story I like to tell about the sign of the times. So went down to my local music store. I said, I got a gig and I need some drums and I don't know how to get it. And Mr. Bringy from Bringy and Wilsey's music store said, tell you what I do. I got a set of drums in the back. They're old, but they'll, we'll give you a stand and a little cymbal and a foot pedal, and you'll be able to play. You give me $10 and $10 a week, $75, they're yours. No one signed for me.
Wow.
I went out the door with the $75 set of drums, $10 down, $10 a week. The
No
following
credit
week,
check, nothing like that.
no credit check, no nothing. I'm 14, no one signed, no one cared.
Right.
He just, here, you take this and go.
Yeah. Was he familiar with you playing music at
No.
the club or anything?
No.
Just a
I just
stranger.
walked in off the street
Yeah.
and went, I got this gig and I need drums. And before very long, I was now playing with this bebop singer and going dee da pa dee da pa doom da pa dee da pa doom, and that's all he needed or wanted.
Yeah. Nice. What city was this in?
It was in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Oh, okay. Nice. So, it sounds like you just got started in a music career right away.
Right
pretty much.
away.
Yeah. So, outside of playing in the clubs and with the bebop singer, what else were you doing? Were you still in high school?
Well, I played in the junior high school marching band, and I
Okay.
played in the high school marching band.
Yeah.
And I played in the high school jazz band. the thing that I find interesting was I always could play. I don't know how to talk about it except that I always could play.
You always had opportunities to
Not
play?
only that, but I could always do the job.
Okay.
And in the beginning, I was all self-taught, and the music was simpler,
Right.
but in terms of reflecting about what the good drummers look like today and what I played like when in 1962, I just barely could play,
Yeah.
but it was enough
Right.
to go to work and provide the what was needed,
Yeah.
and I worked with jazz bands, and I worked with organ players who kick pedals, and duos, and accordion players, and polkas, and waltzes, and there was a lot of different kinds of opportunities for a drummer to play lots of different kinds of music.
Well, did you have formal training in different rhythms and tempos for different styles of music, or were you just
No, I made it all
listening
up.
to it and yeah?
No, I made it all up.
Okay.
I don't even mean I learned it from someone. I mean I made it all up.
Yeah.
And somehow or other, that always worked.
Right.
And even in today's world, my number one skill is I'm an improvisational player.
Wow.
And after all of these years, from that time to now, the great asset is that I am a real journeyman player.
Mm-hmm.
Not master, not extraordinary, not star.
Right.
Solid journeyman player.
Yeah. And do you have any recordings from your gigs back in the 60s?
I don't.
No? That'd be pretty awesome.
I don't. However, at billywoods.com,
Uh-huh.
where my .com is, there's a section about recordings, and all of the music that I played in the second time that I reinvented the drummer, because I found Middle Eastern music, and I found Middle Eastern drumming, and I found belly dance shows,
Yeah.
and I had a second career, which was what I did in the 80s and 90s.
Well, let's go back just after high school. What happened after you graduated high school?
Well, I went to work as a drummer.
Yeah.
We played 6 nights a week, with trios and quartets, and there was some glitter and glitz and disco and jazz and rock, and
Yeah.
I met a lot of near famous people who introduced me to famous people.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of names and people we would recognize
Yeah.
without me having to go into that. Where the bass player went to play with the Allman Brothers, and I played with him, and that kind of stories.
Okay.
And I played with with horn bands and jazz bands and
Yeah.
rock bands, but mostly, I played as a dance band drummer with a trio or a quartet. We worked 6 nights a week. I made $100 a week.
Yeah.
I made $150 a week. And I was on tour for a while, a couple of times. And we meet on the bus, and a
Yeah.
new gig every other place for corporate, and
Uh-huh.
it wasn't my favorite work.
No? You prefer more of the looser side of the business?
Well,
where-
the part that I really like is you go to work in the same club for a year.
Oh, you like that?
You're a house band drummer,
Yeah.
and you're playing, and the house band work's almost gone, and I think that we really suffer
Oh, really?
for the loss of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anywhere that has house bands, in the music scene that I'm part of.
I have a few friends. I have a jazz piano player. He has a jazz trio. They play 5 to 8, 4 nights a week in the Houston area, 5 years.
Yeah.
So there's some house band work. And the concert scene, of course, is the deal. But if you want to play at concerts, you need to write your own material.
Yeah.
It's part of that I see as part of the key. Once I started writing all my own material, suddenly I'm playing on the concert stage, and when I started the recording and did that work, and then I have about 10 albums from the Middle Eastern era.
Okay, so tell us, that was kind of 80s and 90s, was the
80s and 90s.
Yeah. How did you get into that?
There was a woman involved.
Okay. Well, I mean, whatever you want to elaborate on.
Well, you find a girlfriend. She's a Middle Eastern dancer. They find out I play drums.
Was she a belly dancer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the community finds out I can play drums. And in the early 80s, there weren't any musicians who played Middle Eastern music in the United States. There weren't any.
Like particularly Middle Eastern
drummers.
Yeah.
And so, I took a few classes and went to Egypt and studied a little while, then came home and went, okay, you want to be the guy? I'll be the guy. Okay, I'll be the guy.
Yeah.
And I played in the Society for Creative Anachronisms, and I got involved with the Pagan world who love their drummers.
Mm-hmm.
And I could play, and so I started teaching.
What's the connection between the pagan world and the drumming?
They love to dance naked around the fire.
Have you witnessed that personally?
I have.
Okay.
I mean, I still have 4 concerts every summer season in clothing optional environment.
Really?
I still do that.
Is that in this area or kind of all over the country or the world, or?
Well, all over the country.
Yeah. Okay.
All over the country.
Yeah.
I'm sort of hesitant a little to talk about where, and
but
that's kind of fun.
Uh-huh.
In a way that I would make this assumption: when you play in a clothing optional environment, there's a great deal of freedom.
Yeah.
Well, you have to separate, I'll say, nudity from sexuality.
Right.
It's automatic. You can't make any assumptions.
Yeah.
And so, and when you begin to see people who are not in their facade, we're naked, and we're 9 to 90, and blind, crippled, and crazy. It's a joke, but and there's a great deal of freedom that comes from being not only able to witness that, but being comfortable.
Yeah.
In an environment where human beings are just being human beings.
Yeah.
And there's not a facade that says, oh, we can't be this, or we have to be that, and if you do that, you're good, and if you do this, you're not good. And that whole thing revolves around limitations of our personal freedom and being at liberty with self.
Okay.
If you want to become a whole human being, you need to be pretty comfortable with self. Not to
Right.
be preachy, but that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Well, so the experience with the Middle Eastern music, how did that kind of evolve into what you're doing today?
It was really pretty organic. I mean, the show that the Peace is Possible suite that I wrote came about from my friend Fat Mandy, who is a jazz singer in Pittsburgh, who's a wonderful person for your podcast, coincidentally.
Oh, yeah?
You would be delighted with her. She called me on the phone and said, Billy, I got a call from the film director for Doctors Without Borders, and they want me to record some music to run credits over. Will you come and play with me?
Wow.
And so I did that. And in the process, of thinking about what they actually do, the Doctors Without Borders go where it's not safe, things are still blowing up things, and the
Right.
reason they're there is because folks need that help. And so I began to truly think about the peace process.
Okay.
And I, as a human being, have always been in that peace process. You know, I came from the 60s, so there was the Vietnam War, and there was Martin Luther King, and then there was the women's movement, and then there was animal rights, and then there was sexual orientation, and that all of those things that arrive at becoming a person who values human rights.
Right.
That as a human, we have certain inalienable rights to be free from persecution from others. And there are limitations to where we might want to steer that. But you know, if you're not harming someone else, I want people to understand that if we use the law of attraction to bring people to our perspective and point of view, as long as you're holding up a sign that says, "Joy lives here, come play with me." The people who come can come. As soon as you hold up a sign that says, "If you don't come and do what I want you to, I'm going to kill you," this is not okay with me.
Right.
And I use that as an example to sort of indicate the law of attraction and the law of persecution. And if you stand for human rights as a human, and I would sort of state my case, when 10% of a population are of the same agreement, they now inherit minority rights and are not to be persecuted by the 30% who live over there. If we can say that.
Right.
And it takes me to this place of I should sort of make a reflection. It's not about the music career I had, but I'm an ordained Taoist priest.
Okay.
And I am one of 14 men and women who are ordained in a sect of Taoism that has 1,300 years of written history.
What's the, just real quick, basic tenets of Taoism?
Well, it comes from the Tao Te Ching, it's a philosophical discipline as opposed to a religious discipline. I mean, one of the easiest places is that I get to honor all of the religions because I don't worship any of them.
Right.
Because it makes me a little agnostic because I never testify that I know what is or isn't.
As far as being dogmatic about something.
I have no dogma about religion at all.
Right.
I mean, I'm very pragmatic as a human being. You know, like, okay, we have now, you and I have this 5 or 15 minutes, and what 20 minutes ago that's gone.
Right.
And forever. And 20 minutes from now I ain't here yet. So I have no idea where I'll be when we're done with this interview or this podcast thing that we're doing.
Well, did you get directly involved in like the peace movement as far as like at protests or anything like that? Or was music your involvement with it?
Well, I would talk about this. When I was 14, I had a job at the movie theater. And because of when it was, I stood at the door.
I mean, that was in the early 60s?
In the early 60s.
Okay.
In 1960, 59 or 60.
Okay.
So I stood at the door, and it was my job to take tickets. And when a white person came up with a colored person, and I had to tell the white person I could take their ticket and they could come in, and I had to tell the person of color that I couldn't take their ticket and they couldn't come in, it felt wrong to me. And on that day, I fell into the counterculture.
Oh, yeah? Man.
I mean, it's a crossroads event
Right.
for a 14-year-old.
Oh, I'm sure that was, I mean, that's even eye-opening just to hear that it was actually like that at some point, which I know it was, but man, it's just amazing.
So, I began the counterculture swept me up, and it took me into protesting the Vietnam War. And I would say this out loud: the only thing that I have any regrets about what I did during the Vietnam era is that I wish I had learned sooner to hate the game and love the player.
Oh yeah.
Because all those men that went to war, I didn't understand that I sent them.
Well, how do you mean that? As
I'm a citizen of my country. What my country does, I do, whether I approve or not. They do it in my name, even when I hold a sign that says, please don't do that. Please don't do that. I'm still responsible.
Yeah.
And as an elder and an older person now, I get it. When the men and women coming back from Iraq, we have to take care of them.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
We sent them. Me and you and you and you and you and you. We sent them.
Right.
And everybody who's watching out there, I'm going to tell you, you sent those men and women into harm's way.
Well, so if you are wrap it up. Okay. All right. So, what are you doing with music right now?
Well, I'm doing my Peace and Love and Light program, and and you will come and witness tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll get some video
of that. And I feel really grateful that I'm allowed to do that work, to talk about peace and love and light and saving the world. You can tell from my dialogue. I've been doing it a long, long, long time. Yeah. Saving the planet for humankind is really important to me. I will leave you with this thought. The reason I do it is because I love my great-grandchildren who are already alive. And if I don't work hard to keep the planet fit for humankind to live on, I will have begun to live in the time of the sixth extinction. And that extinction is human.
Well, one last question. What do you think is the best thing an individual can do today to work towards peace and work against just the things that create division and unrest?
Believe it's all possible. Believe that we can save the planet. Believe that peace is possible.
When people join in hand in hand, while the music plays the band.
Hey, thank you for listening. I'm super excited to share these interviews with you, and I'd really appreciate you subscribing and leaving me a review, 5 stars preferably, but I'll take any feedback you've got. And stay tuned, we've got lots more exciting interviews coming your way.